It's about the intrinsics, and it's about the feeling we have when we enjoy a Coke at the right time, at the right temperature, in the right vessel, and all the things. Of course, that's got to work globally, as a global system, over 200 markets. It's not always expressed as taste the feeling, but the sentiment is expressed, and the lockup is the same, and we don't allow anyone to play with that lockup or that new font. So then, again, inspired by our past, this storytelling. Who is this guy? Who is she? Does she know him? Has he just kind of, did she ask him to fetch that, or did he just approach her? These little kind of stories around that. The pop of red in the red disc, but could our red disc play that role again, of just being almost a signature? Not seeing her entire face. Again, there's a little, back then they were asking us as consumers to work at this image. They're challenging us to fill in the gaps. So for us, we wanted the product to be center stage. These are our commandments, stories that engage, authentic and real, and leverage our iconic visuals. This is kind of like the start of the visual brief. I've always been a huge Norman Rockwell fan. He's done a lot of paintings for Coca-Cola. But I thought, what if you fuse Norman Rockwell and Instagram? This idea of his very intricate storytelling. Why are these two? Are they on a first date? Who's the guy on the left? Kind of looking into, has he just got back from work? Has he just got back from the military? What's in his hand? What are they eating? So all this kind of hidden stories in a Rockwell, but spontaneous, fast, immediate. So again, just picking up on this, what would the next? So go back to the classic Yes Girl, as we call her. What would a Yes Girl of today look like? Where we don't really see all her face. Is that an umbrella or a towel? Is it a friend or a foe? We don't know. So we started to look in these archives and these classics from the 60s and the 70s and actually any era, and culturally make it more diverse as well. But take the essence, because these stories don't change, have never changed. We're just maybe sunbathing in different places. The Tar Beach, as these girls called it in New York, on the rooftops, not in the park. Halloween, we still have Halloween, but maybe we could replicate this classic, love the symmetry of the 1960s art direction, but maybe there's a different group of people creating that same symmetrical, maybe it's not perfectly symmetrical as well, but the friendship is there and the Coke is there. This idea of kind of meeting and those outside kind of cinemas, but what does it look like actually next year? At the World Cup in Russia. Two opposing fans maybe going to the game and catch that moment. She can't decide back then who to grab the Coke from. What does it look like today? What does it look like in South Africa? We did this for that business unit. It's still raining, but bringing people together, but these girlfriends walking on the street in New York, getting away from the rain. We love the idea of drinking a Coke in the weather that you're not supposed to drink it in. So the rain is a great time to have a Coke. And other, So again, you'll see a pattern here. Refreshing yourself and then, grabbing a Coke, but refresh yourself with a Coke. Bring the product into the story. And this is a bit like the hand from the Yes Girl. So steal from one and bring this into another one, mashing up almost those original stories from different decades, using different kind of ways to tell, in many ways, the same story. This is one of the very first ones we did. This almost kind of looking through her without this group here. This shot is not as good. The fact that they're looking, she's got this kind of very strong presence. The yellow cab, I guess it's New York. The depth of field, and just kind of bringing that notion into a waitress she's Argentinian. And then looking at the vessel, the intrinsics, the glass, not necessarily about the bottle, but that kind of detail, that first sip, as we would call it, with the fizz still maybe just kind of tickling the nose, so to speak. This is actually not that old, 2009, I think, probably 2011, but it was done for our World of Coke. But so it's not always about going back to the 60s and the 40s. We can put a slightly different spin. We can keep our favorite, kind of little guy from the World of Coke, but just interacting. And just clicking through a few of these that are out around our global system this summer, depending on which country you're in, and just, looking at even the dynamic ribbon there, you might see it hidden. Just hiding these little Easter eggs that would say that it could only be Coke. The reason this has no label is because we adapt that label depending on which market you're in. The Coca-Cola script is used in many different scripts around the world, so we allow that to be used. And we try and shoot our work so it's universal. So yes, this could work in our Latin markets, in our Asian markets, maybe in the USA, in many, many markets. So almost kind of give it this kind of somewhat neutral, be more playful. This is a bit like for me, without this guy turning his head, checking out the young girl, it's like the story's not there. It's just a cute girl on a bike. So these elements are very important to us in terms of connecting with this guy, this audience. These are the people that really, we're trying to talk to. But also they're conscious of the world. He doesn't want to throw his litter on the floor. There's no trash bin there, so use the bottle. And I'll just click through a few of these and maybe show you a little bit of TV as well. Not always this was more for our licensing product actually, so these guys are definitely tasting the feeling in that sense. So having fun with it, summer, different ways, maybe she's just broke up, maybe she's making a date, maybe he broke up with her, maybe he's, so this, in fact, we do have a TVC called The Breakup, so I'll show you that in a few minutes. Using empty Coke bottles. Our president of North America, Sandy Douglas, says to me, he said that there's only one thing better than a bottle of Coca-Cola, and that's an empty one. So he, exploring through photography where there actually technically is no product in the shot. Because in theory they've tasted the feeling, if that makes sense. So and again back to all weathers.